Dan Dickau here on the Gonzaga Nation Media Network. This being a Monday, it's a WCC weekly update. If you've been listening lately, you've noticed that we've gone through each of Gonzaga's opponents in the WCC and kind of taken a quick look back at their past season, as well as looking forward to this season, key returning pieces, maybe some newcomers to keep an eye out, as well as a quick breakdown of their schedule. This week, we're going to take a look at the St. Mary's Gales. They have been as good as anybody in the West Coast, not just the West Coast Conference, but the West Coast. I'm including the Pac-12, the Mountain West, the WAC, the Big West, the Big Sky, you name it. St. Mary's has been under the radar quite some time nationally. Anybody that knows the game of basketball at the college level knows that St. Mary's is pretty dang good. Gonzaga fans hate to admit this at times because they're really the only program that has given Gonzaga fits at times. Now, I'm not saying Gonzaga hasn't dominated the series, because they have, but there have been games and teams within Randy Bennett's tenure that have been really, really good, and teams that have beaten Gonzaga. I don't want to say easily, but they've beaten them consistently at times. But St. Mary's is a tremendous program led by Coach Randy Bennett, the second longest tenured coach in the WCC behind Mark Few. They have been to the NCAA tournament a number of times. A season ago, they made it to the NCAA tournament where they were 26-8, 12-3 in the West Coast Conference. In the NCAA tournament, they beat Indiana. Not only did they beat Indiana, they dismantled them. They dominated the Hoosiers of the Big Ten, went on to lose to UCLA in a tough second-round matchup. But it was a typical St. Mary's basketball team a season ago in regards to what they've become. They initially were tremendous offensively, but over the last 6 or 7 years, I think they've quietly become really good on the defensive end, a lot like Gonzaga, where, you know, you think of them offensively first, but then if you take a little deeper dive at the numbers, you realize they've also become a really good defensive team. St. Mary's was that last year. They were really good defensively, taking you away from your strengths when they forced their opponents into about 42% from the field. Now, a season ago, they needed that because St. Mary's wasn't offensively as good last year as they've been. There's been years where St. Mary's has flirted with shooting 50% from the field. They've led the country in field goal percentage, I believe, in the last 6-7 years or so. But a season ago, they shot it at 46%. And when you take a deeper look at the defensive end on the floor, they are one of the best in the country at not allowing their opponent to make three-pointers. Only 5 made threes per game from their opponents a season ago. The other reason that St. Mary's is so good is on the defensive end, they make you shoot everything over a contested hand. So they're not going to get out and pressure you, so they don't turn you over and get easy opportunities for themselves on the offensive end. But what they do on the offensive end, when they have the ball, they don't beat themselves. They are one of the best in the country at not turning it over. A season ago, they only turned it over around 11 times a game. So literally one of the best teams in the country at not turning it over. They do it because guys buy into Randy Bennett's system. They understand his system. Randy Bennett does a great job of recruiting to his system and then developing within his system, which holds a lot of pick and rolls, and then changing and manipulating the angles and the spacing in those pick and rolls. And the better teams that they've had have done that while having a great interior presence, whether it's a Jock Loundale from years ago, whether it's an Omar Samhan, Matthias Toss, who's now gone, was a serviceable big on the interior. A big piece this year will be, does Mitchell Saxon grow into that role as a junior? But we'll take a quick look at the losses from a season ago. I mentioned Matthias Toss. He was their leading scorer a season ago. He kind of was that low post presence that they would be able to throw the ball to, and he was just good enough where you really had to key in on him. You might not double him, but you're going to be aware of him when he gets the ball in the low block. You're going to dig, maybe show a possible double just to get him a little uncomfortable. Wasn't a big time scorer, but He led them in scoring because they gave him space, and you had to worry about a lot of other guys on St. Mary's. You had to worry about Logan Johnson, Tommy Kuhse, who I'll talk about in a second, Alex Dukas, Kyle Bowen. They have pieces that fit so unbelievably well together. And then when you have that spacing, a big has time on the low block to go to work. And so it'll be interesting to see how they replace Matthias Toss, because he was efficient, shot it at nearly 57% from the field. The biggest loss, though, in my eyes, is going to be Tommy Kuhse. It seemed as if he was in Moraga forever, 6 years, so that's quite a while. Started as a walk-on, started as a redshirt, earned his way, became a starter, actually lost a starting role partially through last season. A lot of it was due to his play. Some of the play, it was due to the potential of freshman Augustus Marcialonis. But at the end of the day, Tommy Kuhse was their best player. He's signed a free agent contract with the Spurs, where he's got a chance to make their team. If not, has a chance to be on their G League team. But they started and ended their run towards the end of the year with their games in the NCAA tournament and the WCC by putting the ball in Kuzi's hands, putting him in space in pick and rolls, giving him freedom and the ability to create. And he really did that a season ago. From the point guard position in St. Mary's system, he has had the ball in his hands a ton. Shot 49% from the field, about 45% from three. He had a really nice assist to turnover ratio. He was a big time player for St. Mary's that they're going to have to figure out how to replace. When you look at the key pieces that are returning, Logan Johnson is key piece number one. He gets lost in the shuffle, or he did a season ago a little bit, simply because Toss was their leading scorer and Kuhse did so many things. And then you always seem to talk about the Australian connection for St. Mary's. But Logan Johnson has put together a nice career at St. Mary's after transferring from Cincinnati. He's a lefty, kind of slender, athletic, slithery guard who's a really good defender on ball. He's sneaky in the passing lanes, but offensively, he's good enough in the pick and roll to create problems, to score for himself, make plays for others. He's a better shooter than you would give him credit for when you look at the numbers. But really, season ago, averaged about 12 points a game. I would expect him to be their leading scorer this year. And if not, he's going to be probably their second leading scorer. But a lot of things are going to be run through Logan Johnson this year. Another key piece, a guy that I've thought has been a unsung hero for St. Mary's the last couple of years. Battled injuries a little bit, but when he's healthy and he's aggressive, he's a difference maker. And that's Alex Dukas, one of the Australians in that pipeline that's come to the East Bay. He averaged about 10 points a game a season ago. He's got great size on the wing. He's got great shooting touch. His IQ and his savvy, I think, are really what sets him apart. He makes the game easier for others because he can shoot it. Defenses has got to guard him so he can space it. And then he's really crafty when he puts the ball on the deck. He's crafty with his off-ball cuts. Really good player, Alex Dukas. Next guy that I think is a key piece, and it's because he showed flashes a season ago. He had a really nice game against Gonzaga at St. Mary's that last week or so of the regular season. He's got a chance, I think, to be a really big player for them this year, and that would be Mitchell Saxon on the interior. Bigs typically tend to take longer to develop than guards. Randy Bennett's shown that he has had patience with his bigs that he's recruited and developed, and it's paid off many times before. It'll be interesting to see if Saxon follows the same trajectory as a lot of other St. Mary's bigs in kind of becoming a key focal point of their offenses last season or two in college. Another key returning piece, Augustus Marcialonis. He showed flashes a season ago. They started him a lot. Then they brought him off the bench. There's been high hopes for him. He spends a lot of time playing for his Lithuanian national team. He's got big expectations, high expectations. And maybe those expectations were a little higher last year than they should have been. But I would expect him to look much more comfortable this season running the show as a point guard when it's decision-making time, but I also think he has the potential and he's wired to score a little bit. So he's going to be a guy that definitely is going to bring a lot of attention. The two newcomers that really I'm interested to see how they fit with St. Mary's. And St. Mary's is one of those programs where not all that often do you see a freshman step in and play minutes, let alone major minutes. You kind of learn what's expected at St. Mary's. You earn your minutes and then you grow from there once you earn Randy Bennett's trust. But there's two freshmen that I think are definitely interesting to keep an eye out. One, a guard, Aiden Mahoney, from right around St. Mary's campus. He's a point guard that I've heard has a tremendous IQ. He's got the ability to make plays and pick and rolls with all the different passes that are needed, make all the correct reads. So he could shoot it a little bit as well. And then the other freshman I think has a lot of potential is from the state champs in the state of Nevada, Liberty High School, and that's Josh Johnson. He's a bigger wing. He's skilled. He values winning. And I got a chance to meet his high school coach last spring, and he's basically just said he makes the game easy on others. And when you have a guy like that at the college level, going into a really good program in St. Mary's, those are the kind of guys that I think can kind of really fill gaps, fill holes, earn themselves some minutes early in a career. We'll look at the non-conference for the Gales. Years ago, they were basically talked about in saying a lot of people from an outsider's perspective would say, man, they played nobody in the non-conference. And a lot of times that actually was true. You would look at it, they'd be 11-1 heading into the WCC season. They may not have even played more than one or two away games away from Moraga. But that ended up hurting them on a couple occasions when they would have a great record, maybe a 25-5 record, but they would be left out of the NCAA tournament because their strength of schedule, which would then impact their quad 1, quad 2 wins or opportunities for wins and their net ranking, would really hurt them. I think over the last couple of years, they've addressed that. They've really made an effort to schedule more difficult and schedule better. And I think this is a great opportunity year for them to really prove that and show that. They start with the first 5 games at home, which I don't disagree with why you wouldn't want to do that and get off to a good start with your program. But then I think you really see St. Mary's schedule pick up much more than that has in recent years. They play Vanderbilt of the SEC in the Wooden Legacy, and then win or lose, they will play either Washington State out of the Pac-12 or Fresno State, who has been really good in recent years. Out of the Mountain West. They play a home game against New Mexico. New Mexico under Richard Pitino played really good basketball at the end of last year. They got a really good backcourt returning. But I think with, New Mexico's brand out of the Mountain West, they've typically been a really good program. That's a good game to bring to your home arena. And then the schedule gets really good for St. Mary's. They play Houston in December 3rd in Fort Worth. And I think they're going to learn a ton about where they're at that point of the year. Houston, a lot of people are projecting them as a Final Four caliber team. I know that some of these preseason early rankings have them in the top 3 even. Kelvin Sampson's a terrific coach. They've got some All-American type candidates on that roster. So I think St. Mary's will learn a lot about themselves there. And then the schedule doesn't let up, which is surprising if you look at their past scheduling philosophies. But as I said, they're trending in the right direction of scheduling to make things difficult on themselves and really improving the net. So then they have 4 games against some really good teams. San Diego State out of the Mountain West in Phoenix at the Jerry Colangelo Classic. San Diego State's a perennial Mountain West contender. They've been in the NCAA tournament a number of times. I would expect them to challenge for the Mountain West title this year. Then they play New Mexico State at home. They're in the WAC. They've been to the NCAA tournament a lot. They always challenge for the WAC title, so that's a good game. Then they play Colorado State. Colorado State was in the NCAA tournament a season ago. I don't know if they'll make it this year because they've lost David Roddy, but they've got a lot of good key pieces, and they will be towards the top tier in the Mountain West. So that's another good home game. And then on the December 21st, they have another game in Phoenix against another Mountain West team that's going to challenge for a Mountain West title, and that would be Wyoming. Wyoming made the NCAA tournament a season ago. They've reloaded. They got their best two players back, and then they've reloaded with a number of transfers. So I would expect, Wyoming to challenge in the Mountain West. So when you look at their non-conference, they've got some Power 5 conference teams. They've got a possible Final Four team in Houston. Then you have teams that should be in the mix for their league titles and playing in the NCAA tournament. So overall, a really good schedule, I think, for St. Mary's. When you look at their conference, they will play Gonzaga twice. They're going to host Gonzaga February 4th, and then it's what the WCC does a lot of times, and I think it's really fun and interesting, especially when St. Mary's is really good and challenging Gonzaga. The season ends with the regular season, February 25th. In Spokane at McCarthy Athletic Center. So great season a year ago from the Gales getting to the second round of the NCAA tournament. I think they've got the potential and the opportunity to put together a really nice year if they can replace what Tommy Kuhse gave them down the stretch. I think there's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of opportunity there. But again, to me, they've been the second best team in the easily in the WCC over the last 12, 15 years. But you could even say they've been one of the best teams on the entire West Coast over that stretch as well. So appreciate you listening. Thanks for joining Gonzaga Nation Media Network and our WCC Weekly as we preview each team before we get to the regular season, which starts, hard to believe, we're almost there, the first week of November. So thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media channels at Gonzaga Nation SI, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Take care. Have a great day.